evening. Welcome to the City of Opa-locka. I'd like to call this priority setting workshop to order. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Burke,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams,
Here.
Mayor Pygott.
I am here. Commissioner Taylor, could you lead us in invocation?
God, we thank you for everything that you've done thus far in this great city. God, we ask that you come into this meeting, that we might do your will for your people. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, public comment is open for agenda items only. Do we have any public comment online?
No.
All right, public comment is closed. All right, let's introduce this workshop. About 2.5 months ago, on April 12th, we had a workshop to set priorities based upon the commission with our city manager in the contract, section 5C. The commission and the manager shall jointly define such goals and performance objectives that may be necessary for the proper operation of the city and the attainment of the commission's policies and objectives. And this is a joint document. So last meeting, workshop meeting, we set about 4 major priorities with specific tasks within that. And here today, we are here to hear from our manager about the budget, how those work within our budget, and how those objectives are going to be reduced into writing for a document. So I'd like to turn this over to our city manager to discuss these objectives and how we're going to see them manifest in the city. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, we're not the budget portion. We missed 3 sections at the last meeting: beautification, human resources, and police. We didn't have the opportunity to address those areas. So each one of those departments will be providing a presentation today. And from there, Mr. Anthony will have direction to go towards budgetary expectations. I don't know if you recall, but we were running short on meeting time. And so I know beautification, HR, and public safety and police, again, were the final subjects to be discussed. And each one of those departments are prepared to present this evening.
All right, so we will be able to, after these presentations, you'll be able to break this down into specific objectives that we can put into a plan that we will approve at the next commission meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So our objective is to go over the last 3 areas. Once we go over the last 3 areas, Mr. Anthony will do a budget projection. Based on that budget projection, I think we have the first budget meeting workshop scheduled for the 7th of July, and that can be wrapped up into that. And then from there, the manager's office will work on drafting the priorities based on what was agreed upon in the previous minutes, as well as tonight, and make sure that is memorialized into a resolution.
All right, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first section that I asked to come up and do a goal setting presentation is our Public Works and CIP department, Mr. Austin.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commission. Aria Austin, Public Works CIP Director. As it pertains to our beautification efforts, last week we started an initiative to trim our trees citywide, and then today and continuing for the next 2 days, we've started the planting of trees on Purvis Avenue. Our intent is to complete the initial trimming of the trees that are in the swale areas of the city. So it would not be a heavy lift when we turn them over to the private residents or businesses that are adjacent to those swales on sidewalks. We are also intent on pressure cleaning some of the very deteriorated sidewalk areas throughout the city. That's our plan until I have any additional input from the commission on our beautification efforts. I could have Mr. Anatol expound on our efforts in a holistic way, which would also address our rundown and abandoned houses, vacant lots, and the like for our future goals and objectives as it relates to those items.
Mr. Austin,
Yes.
as far as a unified beautification effort, I know last year we were looking at budgetary items to do a full rejuvification of the entire city, a real deep cleaning of the entire city for the areas to be maintained that by homeowners based on their responsible areas and by the city based on our responsible areas.
Correct.
Can you expound on that a little bit about some dollar amounts that we looked at last year? And I know these amounts may not be good for right now, this moment, but I would like the commission to understand the magnitude as far as cost is concerned in regards to doing that.
In obtaining those costs for, we had a select few contractors that provided us with bids. They range from $35,000 to $350,000 to address the citywide tree trimming effort. We chose not to do that at this time, but to put it out in an RFP since it's such a egregious amount of money for those services. And we will be putting out an RFP for landscaping and maintenance services for this one-time effort with a component for us to continuously maintain the thoroughfares that are within the responsibility of the city, which includes Purvis Avenue, 22nd Avenue, Scheherazade Boulevard, and the like.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Can you speak on the efforts that Public Works has done over the last 3-week period and the weekend work that was done, as well as the progress, well, limited progress that was made over the last 3 weeks?
Yes, we leased a man lift, and we started trimming of our right-of-way trees. That progress is ongoing. At this time, we only could mobilize on the weekend because otherwise it would detract from our current aggressive schedule for the parks and other areas within the city, including pothole maintenance. So that initiative is taking place on Saturdays on a limited basis.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Can you speak on the efforts that the city is attempting to do as far as gaining a partnership with the Department of Corrections in order to get detainees to come out and assist with cleaning the various areas of the city based on priority and where we're at with that?
We engaged the Department of Corrections. They provided us with a sample contract. That contract is under review for us to enter into an agreement with them. Until such time, we are going to move forward with that. In addition to that, we're working with the Miami Co-op, I just forgot the name, Greater Miami Service Co-op, and we are in the final phases of getting them on board. We are in the process of hiring people first within the boundaries of Opa-locka to work on the litter picking efforts around the city.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Can you speak on Burlington Canal and where we're at as far as that area and attempting to do research to remobilize that project?
Burlington Canal is a project that was put out to bid in 2014. That project was demobilized due to our inability to make timely payments. The contractor for the project has since provided us with a letter of commitment to retain the cost of the project to the original bidded value. We're just working to see how we could remobilize the project based on that criteria of it being a formally bid project. And now the contract is holding those prices to the originally bid level until the project is complete.
Okay, Mr. Austin, two-prong question. First prong, as far as Burlington Canal is concerned, what has it been our contact with the state in order to use state revolving loan funds to finance the project is number one. And number two, where we're at in developing a partnership with Miami-Dade County, deal with the other areas of canals and waterways that we have waste and various other floating pollution, where we're at with those.
Okay. As it relates to the financial aspect of the Burlington Canal, the state FDP just granted us the ability to have an extension on the project until it's completed for phase one. And we are pursuing an extension of that agreement. As it pertains to the maintenance of the canal, we are under a 5-year contract for which we are in the third year. We do not have a component that addresses the aesthetics of the canal, but we're doing it under a contingency with Miami-Dade County until such time that the agreement is modified, the MOU is modified to include a scheduled maintenance of the aesthetics of our canals. Right now, they're just responsible for harvesting any debris or algae in the canal, including the mowing of the banks of the canals.
Okay, Mr. Austin, in regards to the canals, I know that Commissioner Davis spearheaded a meeting with us in District 1 in regards to dealing with the potential amendment of that agreement. Have we made any headway in regards to that, or is there anything that the commission can assist with along with Commissioner Davis in stimulating that project?
We would ask for assistance of the commission to get this back before the Board of Commissions in Miami-Dade County to allow for the modification of that MOU.
Thank you. Let's kind of transition. Let's talk about Ingram Park. We see light poles out there on the ground finally, and we see some work being done. The bathrooms look amazing. I know they're not completely rejuvenated and finished, but a lot of great progress I've seen out there. Let's talk about the lighting project in Ingram Park specifically, about what the city has done over the last maybe 3 months, and what do you see your outlook as far as getting Ingram Park at least up and running to a way where there can at least be nighttime or late evening activities with lighting?
For the Public Works and CIP aspects of the Ingram Park facility, we anticipate having the restrooms completed by end of June and the lighting system in place and operational by the end of August. Excellent.
Let's speak on aesthetics of the parks, more specifically fencing. I know that we just got $100,000 from the state legislature with a $100,000 match for fencing, security fencing for the various park properties. Can you speak on those properties where we're looking at putting wrought iron fencing at?
So far, we're looking at addressing all of our parks, including Shabandi, Ingram Park, Helen Miller, Seagull Park, and Kaboom Park. I am in the process of developing the specifications to put the fencing systems for these facilities out for bid so we could accommodate the use of the federal funding in the amount of $2 million.
Understood. Mr. Austin?
I'm sorry, it's, yes, $200,000, not $2 million, $200,000.
Well, thank you for deducting zeros in regards to that. Mr. Austin, let's kind of change gears. Let's talk about CIP and I kind of want to tie that into beautification because we do have a lot of properties that the city owns that could need some revitalization, stimulating activity and reimagining. If you can speak on Old City Hall, the fire station, HR building, and where we're at with those projects.
Okay. Old City Hall is under structural integrity assessment. Today we had the engineers on site performing their evaluation, and they're going to be providing us within the next 2 months with their recommendations for moving the project forward. After such time, they will also develop the final construction plans needed to complete that project. We anticipate having that information by August. As it relates to the old city hall, old fire station and old HR facility, that contract was awarded by the commission a couple meetings ago. We are in the process of developing a contract with the engineer company, and they're going to review the feasibility of repairs to both facilities and what it would cost if we are to move forward with said repairs. At this time, I cannot provide you with a timeline until they have commenced their operations.
Thank you. Mr. Austin, it's look at Cairo Lane at the moment. So as you're aware, myself and you and other staff members have had extensive conversations with business owners in regards to Cairo Lane. And I know we were brainstorming of a potentially temporary fix to address the drainage in regards to Cairo Lane. If you can just tell us where we're at with Cairo Lane, speak to the commission about the temporary fix of the 2 inches of asphalt that we're looking to install outside of rainy season, or if rainy season permits, we'll do it at that time. And what is your projected timeline with Cairo Lane? And if have you had any other challenges in regards to that roadway? And I'm sorry, it's a long question, so if you need me to repeat, I will.
The challenge with Cairo Lane, as you're aware, we're still under the integrity study, as well as the evaluation of the architectural design of the roadway to see if it's feasible to proceed with construction. In addition, the engineering company needs to evaluate all aspects of the construction that has already taken place, which will require the cleaning of the roadway. As you're aware, the commission approved an emergency request to have those that cleaning service and unsuitable materials removed from the drainage systems. However, in a conversation with the state FDP that's funding the project, they're asking us to bring it back to the commission to have the emergency aspect of our request tied to the contractor's scope. So they wanted, instead of being an emergency scope, they wanted it under the contractor. The contractor at this time is in negotiations with one of the contractors that is going to clean the 127th Street aspect of the project. And we expect to bring that to commission within the next 2 meetings. As it relates to the temporary repair of Cairo Lane, it's an ongoing struggle to keep Cairo Lane drivable in the rainy season, because as you're aware, there's no roadway. Adding lime rock only lasts for a period of a week or two until the next rain event, and it's a series of unfortunate events that take place in doing so. Our intent is to have, under emergency, a 2-inch asphalt roadway developed. We're going to level the roadway and add 2 inches of asphalt. as soon as the contractor could mobilize to do so outside of flooded conditions until the construction starts. We are still projected to complete the project in March of 2022 for the complete project to close out.
Okay, as far as the asphalt portion, that hasn't came before the commission yet. Has there any projected dollar amount that the engineers put out there in regards to that aspect of the project?
We're projecting approximately $150,000 to have that done.
Thank you. Mr. Austin, you're aware how vital it is to keep timelines in regards to everything that goes on in the city. And based on that, I think my expectation as city manager is to ensure that you get the assistance you need to be successful in the job that you do. In saying that, I want to give a moment, at least for this portion, to allow the commission to ask any questions that they may have in regards to anything related to beautification, CIP, or public works, and then we can continue the conversation. Mr. Mayor, so if we want to open the floor.
To my colleagues, the floor is open. I do want us to try and stay on topic. Right now, we have 4 priorities. If we look on page 15 of our agenda packet, and beautification has 6 specific items on there. And our goal today is to get a very clear understanding from management on what exactly, because we talked about ideas last workshop, how does that actually look in terms of a performance objective? For example, the beautification plan, what is that? What will that entail? Is that something that will be written out? Does it have maintenance? What are the costs associated with that? To be very clear and specific about the priorities we discussed last commission. So I do love and appreciate the updates that we are having in regards to CIP and other projects. And I think that we can go into detail about that after the priorities or even at our commission meeting. I think it's very important that we get down into the details of these being performance objectives. So if we can address that, that'll be helpful so that this workshop can be fruitful and that the city manager can move the next step into creating a document. So with that, the floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I just have a few questions as it relates to beautification. I know that Mr. Austin said that they will be putting it out for RFP for landscaping. But I just had I guess a bit of concern about the pressure cleaning or the citywide deep cleaning aspect that's also listed on page 15. I guess to the manager, why wasn't that aspect of beautification included in the scope of the RFP that's being put out?
Mr. Austin, you can answer
Or
the
maybe
question.
Mr. Austin, okay.
If I may, the beautification effort is an ongoing, we do not have a final plan on the holistic beautification effort. We are approaching it in pods. And the first pod, if you may, is the trimming and tree management system. We are going to address that in whole as we roll out the complete written portion of our beautification effort.
Okay, got it. So you just haven't gotten there quite yet.
No, sir.
Okay, and my next question relates to the waterways maintenance and that formal MOU, the agreement that we have in place with Miami-Dade County. Of course, if we're looking to put something more sustainable in place, that agreement is going to have to be amended, i.e. Getting support from the board and going through that process.
Correct. It's an ordinance, so it would need to go back to the county commission as well.
Now, what would be helpful, Mr. Austin, is if we can get those exact amendments. So, I don't know how regularly the county ultimately maintenance our waterways, but, some sort of reoccurring schedule. I don't know, your office could, of course, make those recommendations. That information would be very helpful in our conversations with the vice chairman in Miami-Dade County.
Will do, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Mayor.
Taylor? Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Austin, to the manager. You talked about everything, us doing things in phases. Can we develop a plan where we're proactive as opposed to being reactive? In this sense, setting up a maintenance schedule for the city? Like on this day, we trim trees. This month we do this, as opposed to the only time we start moving is when someone says something. Can we be proactive instead of reactive? That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Austin.
We do have a tree trimming and beautification schedule. Unfortunately, the manpower does not allow us to carry out the full intent of that schedule on an ongoing basis. In my response, we are requesting additional personnel along with the Greater Miami chapter and the prison gang to allow us to have an ongoing, consistent schedule for maintenance effort rather than a reactive.
And that schedule, don't want us to get caught up on trimming trees. So that schedule is inclusive
Yes,
of everything that goes on into maintaining our city.
yes, it does.
Okay.
Mayor.
Can we, and Mr. Manager, that schedule is in writing?
It's not included here.
No, but is it in writing?
Yes, it
Is that
is.
something that can be provided?
Yes, so I'm gonna actually speak on that. I think the most creative way we can address this is dealing with all the cleaning of the entire city in a way where we're utilizing city employees as well as a combination of contractors to deal with the whole city. So I understand what you're saying. We're very reactionary in our posture and how we react to things. I think we have to look at a financial type analysis in regards to the effectiveness of hiring more employees for the Public Works Department to consistently do that work. And this is skilled workers that you're going to need to do the work, or compared to supplementing what we have now that works for the city and supplementing that with contractors, what the city has done in the past. So with that, those priorities and with those kind of that thought process you have, holistically through a RFP, I think we need to address all facets. And so beautification is very broad. And so we have to kind of narrow that scope of exactly what you all want to see done. I know you don't want to get hooked on tree trimming. I understand that portion. But holistically, we have to deal with this in a way of we have a structure plan through RFP. Also, we got to kind of attack the illegal dumping piece that the city has. But I think through the RFP process, as that is developed, we can have a solid plan in place.
But I just don't want us to get caught up in employees and this, that, and the third, because there's some things that we can do in-house that don't require RFPs and on the financial, like cutting the grass. How often do we cut the grass? How often do we clean the gutters? How often do we pick the weeds out of the Opa-locka sign area, the entrance of our corridors? Like that type of stuff. So that type of stuff doesn't need, like you said, the contract with the corrections. That stuff can be done in-house.
Correct.
So
There is a schedule for performing those items. Like I said, we are unable to, with the number of staff members, we are unable in the hours per day, we cannot accomplish the entire task of cleaning the signs, doing the weeds, cutting the parks, and maintaining our medians. We only have the number of staff, and if you pin that out to the tasks that we have at hand, we cannot accomplish the task without having the proper contingent of manpower to do so.
Okay, Mr. Austin.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams.
this question is for the manager. I do see under the status of action, we do say adding more staff. And I've heard this through several different the departments. So where are we with adding staff if that seems to be a barrier? And if, what do we do if that's always the barrier? Like, what's the plan? What's the plan B? If the barrier is staff, then what do we do? How then do we effectively work with the staff we have to make things happen? Because right now, as I've been taking notes, I've been hearing, I wrote down, we're in the process 10 times. We're in the process. And so it seems like the scope of work is too wide and not deep enough. So like, if it's staff, what do we do to just chunk some of the things that we can do? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. As far as staff is concerned, as you all are aware, we have positions posted. I believe HR moved forward. We're bringing on 4 employees. I don't know where we're at in the process. I know last update I got, I know we did a lot of interviews over the last month. And based on what came across my desk, I saw 4 names that we moved forward with the process. I don't know where we're at with that. So that's one thing. So we have been making strides as far as bringing on people, hiring people with specialized licensing, like CDL licensing and various different things like that. So that's the first part. The second part is Public Works needs to come up with a very detailed plan in regards to what we're going to use in-house employees for and what we're going to use contractors for. And that we have to maintain that schedule, because right now we're just kind of diverting. As Commissioner Taylor said, we are more reactionary now than proactive. So we have to make sure we have planning in place. So, okay, this is what we're going to do with our personnel. This is what the contractor is going to do. And then that helps us build the scope of the RFP. So once it's put out, we know what everybody's responsibility is. I think one thing, and I would not call it a barrier, but I would say city has been not kept up for so long. There's so much to do that we are always reactionary. We're always playing catch up, which is not an excuse for anything. I'm just being very realistic in regards to that. And so also when we talk about beautification, it's such a broad subject. So that's why we have these sessions today and even more workshops beyond priority setting, where we kind of discuss what does that look like for the commission? What is beautification? What is the commission's definition of beautification? How does that look? How does that look to our residents or for our residents? And maybe get more resident input other than the select few that we get input from.
Thank you. As I listened to the conversation, I recall like these are almost verbatim what we've been hearing on a regular basis. Because as a commission, we've been stating the same thing about, as Commissioner Teller mentioned, cleaning the gutters, cleaning out the weeds out of the sidewalks. There's some basic things, and there's been always a response about staff and funding and proposals and contracts. I guess what we're looking for and what our objective is today is to get from our manager that plan. Because we talked literally in these priorities, we have beautification, we got deep cleaning, we got adding more staff, we have partnerships with organizations, we got illegal dumping, we got examination of our code enforcement. And we went into detail about what each of those mean for us as a commission. What is the broad plan that pulls all the pieces together? Because I know that Public Works has one aspect to maybe develop their staffing levels, what are the resources that they're going to need, what is the maintenance schedules they're going to need to do that. Then that has to be corresponded with HR and when we can get people on to hire them. And that has to be corresponded with finance and budget so that we can put it into our budget and it's a part of our financial 5-year recovery plan. All those pieces is what we're looking for so that we can have performance objectives put in place. And I think Mr. Austin mentioned that currently we have no plans and we're doing this based upon pods. We want to move from this broad discussion with so much to do and with a very clear game plan with accountability measures so that we can go deep, as Vice Mayor said, and do the details. So my question, Manager, is when will we have those details? I was expecting that during this workshop so that we can at least see what those details are based upon your assessment. And then we can agree as a commission that that's what we would like to do. And then together we can formalize that into a document. So how can we move to that step and how soon can we move to that step to seeing those plans, those contracts and those things so that we can move forward together as a city?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, thank you for expressing those highlights and concerns. These workshops are set up for there to be an interactive conversation between staff and the commission and myself to understand the scope, what the commission is looking at, how they feel about certain things, how you guys think that things tie in together. And then from there, a plan is developed. For me to come up with a plan and prematurely bring it to the commission without even being discussed fully, nor it being developed fully by budget, it's difficult for me right now to say, Mr. Mayor, this is our objective and this is where we're going, this is what we're going to do. Until we understand what the commission's concerns are, as well as tie a dollar amount to that, then we can say these goals are attainable. And this is the reason why we ask these questions, and it's why I asked Mr. Austin these broad responses, so we can kind of narrow it down. Because again, if we come up with objectives and tie it to the budget, it may not necessarily be the priorities or exactly what the commission wants or desires. So what I'm looking at is this should be the last phase of the interactive process between staff and the commission. We will go back to budget. We have a budget workshop on July 7th. We'll tie everything to the budget and we'll be able to generate a document to bring before the commission for approval to see if you guys are even agreed with the scope of what we're looking at and what's attainable. But at this point, with the previous workshop, we really didn't finish beautification. We really didn't touch on HR a lot, and we very rarely discussed the police department. So I wanted to make sure those areas had opportunity to present what they have and then get input from the commission.
Any other discussion? Let's move on.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Chief, if you can come up, please.
We have Parks and Recreation
Par-
next on the priorities list. On page 15, we have Parks, Recreation, Infrastructure, and Human Resources.
Okay. Parks, if you want to come up. Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Delvin, Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Mr. Director. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. Let's talk about all your facilities and the challenges that you have and how that ties into programming and what kind of strides you guys have made during the last 6 months.
Well, all of our, we have 3 facilities. We have Helen Miller, Shabani, and Ingram. We have activated all these facilities. Mostly we do most of our senior programming here in this site with all of our youth programming in the evenings and in the basketball court. Helen Miller is more of our summer camp aspect along with some of the partnerships we have in Parks and Recreation. And Ingram is just some future ideas that we will do at Ingram Park, where we're still waiting on the lighting and some of the stuff that's happening at Ingram Park. Some of the strides that we've been doing in Parks and Recreation is just open them up, getting all of our programs back. COVID really hit us in the worst way. Coming in as a new director, just trying to learn the community, trying to learn the ins and outs of our Parks and Rec system, and trying to get those community activists dedicated back to our programs and getting our youth and our kids back. It's been tough trying to reach out to some of our residents, but they're back, and it's all about word of mouth. Just getting out there, learning the community, and then just doing different things in our community. Staffing is a big issue for us, but we have been working on getting different staff here. Here in our park system, we hired 2 rec leaders, and we slated to bring on 2, and bringing in more staff for FY22 just to get the parks back running as a park system, doing different programmings here at Shabani, Helen Miller, and at Ingram Park. And just budget-wise, our budget is not big, but that's something that we are looking at. And then just partnering with different people, bringing in different programs to subsidize those programs that we cannot provide to our residents and to the city.
Thank you, Director. I know we're in a process of getting legislation together to make Magnolia Park a official city park. I know that should be coming in the forefront in the next 30 days, if not less. Let's talk about youth programming. Can you give the commission an update of where we're at with youth programming as far as developing curriculum and schedule for youth and our seniors and any other resident of the city, and how we're expanding that?
Well, with seniors, we are partnering with Greater Miami Core and the EHEP program, and looking at Silver Sneakers for our seniors program. They will be housed here in Shabani with different social services, doing different aquatic classes for our seniors, starting a walking program for our seniors, and just doing healthy initiatives, fitness, exercise, partnering with you guys to bring stuff to the seniors, and just broadening and expanding that program to all of our seniors, because I know we have a huge senior population here in the city, and that's one of the big initiatives we're trying to do here in the city. We do have a senior coordinator that goes out to the senior facilities and just make aware of some of the things that we got going on. We did add a calendar to our seniors program just to inform all of our seniors of the day-to-day operations that we do have. Some of the youth programming that we currently have going on, we got our football program back. Like I said, COVID really put a damper on our numbers, but we are diligently trying to get those kids back out here. We have a karate that's slated to start. We're doing STEM program over in our summer camp. Our summer camp is back up and going over at Helen Miller. It's COVID safe, but we have about 20 kids over there. We provide free lunch and snack for those kids with daily activities on a daily basis. And as far as in Ingram, like I said, we're still down, but we are looking into doing fishing programs out there with different partners that we have to provide fishing for our senior. I'm sorry, for our seniors too, and our kids as well. So we're looking at a whole magnitude of different programming that we will bring here to the city and to our parents. Looking to do some parenting classes, financial literacy, just to help out our parents. Our parents need help as well. So we're looking at every age group from the very young to the very old, and just programming it out, doing a daily schedule of what programs we have at each facility, and just making our parks better and bringing new ideas. Doing different events that we will be bringing to the city. We already have done different events as well. So we're looking to expand upon that and work with any partnerships that could better our community.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Mayor, I want to leave the floor open because I know we're running limited time. I'm gonna leave the floor open for any questions from the commission in specific to Parks and Recreation.
Floor is open.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Taylor.
through the manager, we talked about recruitment of the residents and specifically, you said the calendar for the seniors. Facebook, I saw that we utilize Facebook to get the word out, but all of our citizens don't know that the parks are open. And I know Vice Mayor brought this up a couple of meetings ago when she talked about us reaching out to the citizens, letting them know that our parks are open. These are the programs that we provide, yada, yada, yada. So have we started that initiative outside of social media?
Yes, we have, like I said, all of our user groups are back, and some of them are surprised that, hey, you guys open? Yeah, we are open.
So how are you getting the word out? Is my question.
Word of mouth. We go out there and we talk to our residents. We go outside.
So you canvass?
Yes, we canvass the residents, yes. And the people, the user groups that use our facilities.
Okay, is there a way, Mr. Manager, I don't know if this is in the budget or something, that we can send out mail outs or something? I know we talked about it before, telling them that our parks are open and these are the programs that we offer. Because you talked about the swimming and the karate and the football. But our citizens don't know that this stuff exists. And I think we're doing them a disservice if they don't really know.
Understood. So that is attainable. We can develop a document that can be vetted through our marketing department that can be mailed as a mailer. We just have to get preliminary costs on how that looks, but I don't see that as a difficult task to accomplish. Maybe something on a quarterly basis.
Okay. And regards to the senior programs, do y'all go to every senior facility in the city, or do you just focus on certain ones? Because
We try to get to every single one that's here in the city.
okay, that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Patterson, for the presentation. What I've done is just from taking what you've said and also going back to what the commissioner's original priorities were. I see policies and procedures for parks. I'm not sure where we are with the completion of that. I heard you say youth initiatives, senior programming, an effective marketing plan to promote participation, and building partnerships. Those are five big goals I'm giving you.
Okay.
And I think that if we can put that, and I know they're going to branch off like leaves because of course it's a cradle to the grave I guess, thought process. So you will have, and we know the Commissioner of Parks, Commissioner Taylor, is definitely going to continue to create great programming with the Parks and Rec, but that I believe, but I think at the forefront, just like my colleague Commissioner Taylor said, there are 2,500 seniors in the great city of Opa-locka, and only 50 are in seniors of the move, on the move, and 45 of those 50 live in one senior facility, a few, maybe another. So we can't just go to senior facilities. And that's the same thing even when we're doing other programming like Easter baskets or anything. We just can't go only to an apartment building, the back blues and recruit, because that's always easy to knock on apartment doors or senior facility doors. But we do have residents within the community that we have to try to touch and reach. But you know, you've heard me preach that several times. But those five, I think those five, from what I'm reading, what we wrote and what you're saying is those big five that we need to work with you on. Thank you.
Understood.
Commissioner Taylor.
No, I just want to, she said that, I like her when she said the big five for parks. What was that again? As a policy and procedure?
Policy and procedures, youth initiatives, seniors programming, an effective marketing plan to promote participation and building partnerships with outside agencies.
Okay, thank you.
And just for reference, these are all items that we specifically laid out in our last meeting. That's right here. So the key thing is, I know during our last meeting, looking on page 12 of the minutes, Mr. Manager stated that you will address these priorities and on beautification, parks and rec, infrastructure within 2 weeks. That was on the April 12th meeting. And due to the timing that we have, in which we can go to other topic and also our commission, we're not able to go through infrastructure and human resources at this moment. And I would hate that this conversation is delayed, as Commissioner Taylor said, to another workshop, and put together that plan. Like, we would love to see what it looks like, as Vice Mayor said, in terms of that marketing plan. Like, what are details? Like, what spots are you hitting up? How much staff time does that take? How much is it going to cost our marketer to provide the new marketing aspects of it? What we've been seeing in Parks and Recreation, especially by the event spearheaded by Commissioner Taylor, has been a reignition of our parks, and we love the marketing and media on Facebook. We love the different events that are happening. We love the fact that our parks facilities are looking much better than they ever have been. So we love those things, but our goal is to specifically put these things into plans, performance objectives with timelines and budget items. And as I'm hearing this conversation, I don't see how we'll be able to have this conversation while also having a budget workshop. Because a budget workshop is going to take care of a lot of different things from departments. And then specifically, these are the commission priorities that we are tackling. And a budget workshop usually leads to actual passing of the budget, which we have to do in less than 6 weeks to meet with our August 1st deadline. So could you give us some very clear clarity, you know, like, when can we get these plans in writing that details when these things are going to happen? What are the objectives? What are the accountability measures and performance measures that we really tie to each of these items, so that we can say, yes, that's what we like, that's what we're looking for, and let's put it into a document, let's put it into our budget and move forward. When can we get that?
So, Mr. Mayor, if it is the commission's will not to have another workshop and us develop a plan and present it at another time, I'm fine with that. As long as the commission is okay with not being able to provide further input until we get to that point, and we can probably do it in 2 weeks. We can memorialize this into a document, a resolution, along with budgetary ties and performance objectives for each department, and then we'll just bring it back for the commission. So 2 to 3 weeks.
Is that the will of the commission?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So, I'm sorry, was it 2 to 3 weeks for another meeting? I didn't understand.
To actually have a resolution, a document with a budget tie on and performance goals and objectives for each department based on the discussion that we've had with the commission, as well as because we have not talked about marketing in some other areas. Some of those areas will be plugged in and programmed without you all's input. So you guys probably putting in input after the fact, but it's a workable document regardless of what is generated.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke?
Mr. City Manager, you sure that's gonna be enough time? I don't want you to put yourself out there on a limb and then when we come back and you haven't delivered. So is that gonna be enough time for you to do what you need to do?
Just based on the information that's presented today, 3 weeks to a month, no later than 1 month. Say 2 to 3 weeks. There's a little side of caution, which I'm fine with. We can just round it up to a month, and there is a delay or something will be memorialized to the commission in regards to what the delay is. Just understand that there's competing projects going on. You have an operational audit that we currently have going as ongoing. You have a budget that's being developed that Mr. Anthony has to present and have done by April 1st. Then you have a budgetary tie-on So there's a couple of competing objectives, but we'll make it happen. And if there's an issue, we'll be sure to communicate it and state why we're not able to meet that objective.
Mr. Mayor, I think I'm not clear. Are you, Mr. Manager, to the manager, are you saying to present to the commission the remainder of the priorities? Is that what you're saying? I'm not.
So we won't be, so because of the time frame, typically we'll probably have another workshop, tie everything together, discuss the budgets for each of these objectives. Because we want to get this moving and get it done, it's going to end up going to a resolution form of what you guys will approve as far as my performance objectives will be memorialized with a budgetary breakdown. And there are some areas such as marketing and union that you guys will be able to do an input on the 7th of July. But marketing, and there's some maybe other areas that I add on that you guys are not going to be able to have this interactive dialogue. So it'd be you all modifying the actual resolution or document on the move instead of having multiple more workshops. So if it's the will of the commission, I'll do that. And we just have to make the adjustments on the second phase of this. And this is actually you all approving the performance objectives.
Can I give a suggestion? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I just want to give a suggestion. I think that some of the things that we've heard today and the things that the commission have been saying, these are actual issues that we've said on the dais several months and several times. I almost think that every department head really knows what at this moment, what our objectives and goals are. I mean, these are things that we kind of repeated and they've been said. The 5 goals I just said with parks, I know Mr. Patterson has heard all of us say that several times. So I don't think there's anything that each department themselves, if they go back and listen or think about, I'm sure they took good notes about some of the priorities that we were pushing and we've been trying to push on the dais, and go back and read what we wrote in our notes. Is it possible for them, for the directors and the staff to put together what we've said throughout and then present that, or email it at this point? I'm trying to prevent another priorities workshop so that if we're in agreement, we can move forward with those priorities. I don't want Mr. Patterson to give us 20, we gave him 5, move on those 5, and then he can bucket those how he wants. But to me, that should be the way. I mean, we've talked about HR, we've talked about beautiful, like we've talked about this. So I don't know what else that we have to do. Yes.
Nothing else, Madam Vice Mayor, through the mayor, nothing else. You guys provide direction. We'll come up with a finished document to present to the commission in writing via email for you guys to review in advance. And if there's any changes or tweaks that you
and
guys
then we
desire.
can share that with.
Yes, no
Thank
problem.
you so much. Okay.
Thank you. So as we move on, we're clear that a manager within the next 2 to 3 weeks will submit.
Mr. Mayor said 1 month.
All right. So the difficulty with 1 month is that today is June 23rd. 1 month from now is July 23rd. That leaves us one commission meeting before. That leaves us 7 days before the August 1st deadline for our budget. From what I understand is that we're having a budget workshop on what day?
The 7th.
Okay, so that's the 7th. We need to pass our budget, I think, in 2 readings, correct?
Mr. Anton is shaking his head no.
Okay, so if it's on the 7th, that means by the 22nd. So that means we're passing our budget by the 22nd without having these priorities if we leave it to 1 month timeline. So that's my concern, is that we're going to be passing the budget. It's a preliminary send to the state that doesn't include these priorities and performance objectives. So what we were hoping when we started this conversation back 2 months ago was to have these conversations so that they could be included in the budget conversations so that we can approve it and the budget, the performance objectives, in the same time so that we can just move forward. So another month, that would significantly delay and also interfere with the timeframes that are based upon this contract, the evaluation timeline extension, and also the budget and 5-year recovery plan items that we got to submit to the state. Well, not, yeah, to the state. So how does 1 month work in that situation with, based upon your estimates?
So, Mr. Mayor, all these activities are going on concurrently. So as these performance objectives are developed, the department heads are already actively meeting with Mr. Anathan, and more likely than not, the approved budget would have the performance standards within the budget document, as well as funding that's set aside to reach out each objective. So I don't see 1 month being a huge burden, and there's no timeline as far as setting objectives, as long as they're set prior to my evaluation period, which is April of next year. And so, I mean, Commissioner Burke brought up a good point. I asked for some buffer room and then asking for a week, and I will hope that the commission will be supportive of that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Teller?
Okay, so you said that the directors are meeting with Mr. Hamilton. So what they're proposing for the budget is based on what we discussed, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's what we're going to hear on the 7th?
Yes, sir.
So then the information will be
So it'll be,
ready by the 7th and not a month.
But you all might want change. So again, you all might want changes. So I have to leave buffer room for appropriate changes to be made.
So
no, but at least it's at least we have a blueprint to start from. I guess that's what
exactly.
is that's what we are saying. That gives us a blueprint. So if you already having those active conversations, I'm comfortable with that. But as long as it's based on commission priorities, because like Vice Mayor said, this discussion is ongoing, so you pretty much know what we want or what our desires are, if you will.
So when I speak on the month, that's for a final resolution to be passed by the commission. So yes, Mr. Anthony more likely now will be presenting on these items, but you all have to pass a resolution outlining my priorities. So that's a separate document that has to be generated.
No,
So,
we understand that. But by the 7th, we will have a draft. Right? It won't be a discussion on this is what we want.
no, discussion's over.
It'll be a draft.
Yes.
Blueprint.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion on this commission priorities?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke?
1 minute while I have Mr. Patterson up. Mr. Patterson, what's the status of the pool?
Well, currently they are inundated to start fixing the pool by Friday. They couldn't get all the parts in due to COVID, but they are starting to get their parts in. They will start electrical work on Friday. After that, they will put in the pump.
So when should the pool be operational?
Right now, I have no ETA for that question.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on to the city manager evaluation tool. Vice Mayor, you want to lead it?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've placed the tool on the agenda actually a few times. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review it. I would like to say that this is actually a PDF fillable form. I know it does look like it's just paper and pencil, but this is a form that will have to be completed on the computer for record keeping purposes. There's really not much. I'm hoping by now that we've gone through it. I know one of the concerns were the number of items. I did address it, but I'm not sure if anyone else did. I did, however, want to have a discussion with Mr. Pate, just to make sure that it is connected or aligned, or if there's anything that you think we need to add or revise or edit, we're definitely can do that. So the discussion is open.
All right, Mr. Pate, you have any input on the evaluation tool?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have an issue with the evaluation tool if it's being used for future performance. My only issue is the tool being used for past performance. So it's basically a tool being passed today and to go back retroactively on standards that are just being passed today. So it's basically a report card that I'm being provided, and I'm going to be graded based on my past work. And so that is one of my concerns. Another one of my concerns is in reference to the timeline of what the evaluation dates of what will be covered in regards to evaluation. Madam Vice Mayor and Commissioner Taylor have been evaluating my performance since December of last year. So for them, their input would be tied to that. Everybody else's input would be tied to past performance prior to December of last year. And I don't find that to be fruitful as far as basically being evaluated on categories that I'm just now reviewing and kind of going over. I support the vice mayor fully in regards to the evaluation tool, as long as it's done fairly and in a way that's fair and equitable. It's just really deciding on the time frame. Like I said, to have two evaluations where the time frame's within 6 months, and then other evaluations that are tied to maybe a year and a half, or whatever amount of time those individuals want to rate me at. I just don't want it to be something that's subjective. I would like something that's objective and fair. And so typically with evaluation tools, and this would be for my own staff, I can't change the evaluation tool and tell my staff, I'm using this to grade you back from a year prior, and they don't know where the goalpost was. And I think by extensively going far back, let it be a year and a half or whatever that time frame is, I think it's moving the goalpost. Don't find it to be fair, equitable. That's my view. But I support the vice mayor as far as the tool. Even if it's used in the future, it's great. My issue is the past time frame.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to say that I do agree with the manager that the goalpost does need to be moved. If we are assessing on standards that we're giving to the manager now, and also on the priorities, and it needs to actually happen after those priorities are solidified so that we can then have those conversations and actually make a objective assessment of job performance. I also would like to make sure, and as for you, Mr. Pate, you can take a look at it because that might be something you may want to use to antiquate it or to use for moving forward with all other employees since it is PDF fillable.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke?
wait a minute. Are we here to vote on the evaluation tool? Or are we talking about voting on the tool and then approving the tool and then using this tool that we just approved to evaluate the manager now? Or is this going to be for future evaluations? That's what I'm trying to find out. This tool that we're voting on is going to be for future evaluations?
So based upon the manager's response and also agreement from Vice Mayor, it seems as though this current tool right now, we're having a workshop because Vice Mayor wanted to workshop this before bringing it for agenda item. It is on our agenda for today. So we're just discussing any changes that we'll like to make in order to move it forward. However, it does seem as though, based upon the conversation, that this is a tool that we'll be using moving forward, which means that the previous tool that we already have in place is the tool that we need to do, to complete within the extension that we voted upon a few weeks ago.
Mr. Mayor, I guess the question is, what is the will of the commission? And that's, I'm not understanding, because if that's not the will, then if we can provide input, that would be great.
Madam Vice Mayor.
When we get the will of the commission first, and then I'll come back to you, City Manager. Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had proposed a similar question on last meeting in regards to the evaluation, and if it was passed, ultimately, what would be the time period that would be responsible for being evaluated? Would it be, a forward timeline or a backwards timeline? Of course, I'm in support of the tool. I do feel it's unfair in many ways to hold the manager accountable ultimately for objectives that have just been kind of decided upon. So I am in favor of going back and looking at the old assessment. But that's my question, Mr. Mayor. If we pass the new evaluation tool tonight, is there anything that would preclude us from using the prior tool to evaluate the past performance of the manager? I guess that's a question through the mayor to the attorney.
Madam Attorney?
So I've been in discussions with Mr. Pate's attorney, and the position that Mr. Pate and his attorney are taking is that you cannot evaluate him at this time on anything because you have not done your priority goals in conjunction with discussions with him. Now, in terms of what was decided upon at the meeting where you all talked about what you would do, you did agree, and I thought it was Mr. Pate's agreement at that time too, that it would be retroactive to past performance, and it would just be a 3-month extension. And it seemed that everybody was in agreement, but at this point, it does not appear that there is an agreement. And so I don't know that you have the agreement of Mr. Pate to evaluate him at all based on what he's saying. He's just said in the meeting earlier that he believed his evaluation would be next year in April. So based on that, based on what, the position that seems to be taken, it doesn't appear that there is an agreement at this time to evaluate Mr. Pate based upon the extension, the 3-month extension that you all voted upon on the item that was brought forward by Commissioner, Vice Mayor Williams and Mr. Pate.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that the evaluation is so we pretty much don't have a basis to evaluate on past performance. Is basically what you're saying.
That is the position that Mr. Pate and his attorney are taking based upon his contract that says that you all will work collaboratively with him to establish goals and objectives, which you could read would be tied to his evaluation.
Right.
There are two ways you can read it, and I think honestly, if I'm going to be honest, I think I would read it closer to the way that seems to suggest that there would be a plan in place, and you all would have an established collaboratively with Mr. Pate goals and objectives. You could also read it where those 2 paragraphs are separate, but I think that would not be likely be the best reading of that. You could make an argument both ways, but I believe that what you're hearing right now from Mr. Pate is that he does not believe that he should be evaluated. And so therefore the resolution that was brought forward, unless there would be some type of a consensus between Mr. Pate and the commission that 3-month period even would be extended, which that's not what I'm hearing. That would be the kind of the middle ground. But outside of that, it seems that, and Mr. Pate can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that what he is saying is that he does not feel it would be appropriate to evaluate him at this time, since you are just establishing the criteria upon which to evaluate him.
Just for the sake of time.
Mr.
can I-
Mayor, go ahead.
All right. Mr. Pate, a few weeks ago, you brought to the commission a amendment to your contract to extend your evaluation period. And now you're saying you are not going to go through with the agreement that we made to you. What changed and why?
Mr. Mayor, I'd rather not speak on that at this time.
I'm going to say this, because this is extremely frustrating to see these games being played. Over the past year, we've sat to try and get commission priorities set since we hired you, Mr. Manager. Literally, we've had commission priorities workshop multiple times last year. We had the very first item of the new commission was to do a strategic planning. It passed first round, it failed the second. And we've been, as a commission, doing our due diligence to try and work with you to get these priorities laid out. When there was an opportunity for you to, I guess, extend the evaluation period, you agreed to it. And now we're hearing that you're not going to agree to it. You don't want to speak on it. And then we also getting more delays in regards to setting these commission priorities. This is a very difficult situation that we're putting us as a commission and the city in, and we would love to be able to get to some point of reconciliation so that we can move forward, because at the end of the day, we just want these priorities set. We want to do our job as a commission to evaluate and to move forward as a city. And it's very difficult with hearing this from attorneys and all this to just do what we need to do here. So when can we clearly resolve this so that at the end of the day, we want to give you an evaluation so you can hear what we think as a commission of your performance, so you can become better and do what you need to do to fulfill the objectives this community is setting. Like, we want to go through that process. We want to set clear objectives, performance measures, so that you know clearly what the will of the commission and the people for this city want and see. And we want to get that done. Like, can we get that done?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So just for the record, I've always been open to work with the commission in regards to any objectives the commission, their sole desires. My issue is the intent, or the intent of some in regards to this matter. Most recently, last Monday, a special meeting was called in order to go over a tool without my input and while I was out on vacation. So I had no opportunity to have any dialogue or discussion. I did speak to the sponsor, which is the vice mayor, in regards to it. And at this point, you know, I just feel the intent of some on the dais is not favorable as far as my future with the city, which has been shown by obvious actions. And if this would have remained originally with me and the vice mayor to handle with the other members of the commission, I don't believe we'll be at this place at this point. As far as priority setting, workshops, the employee-employer relationship is two ways. Just like the commission can call a workshop at any time to discuss any item, though that could have been done by the commission over the last year and a half, which was not done. We have a new commission, 2 new commissioners that I've been working very well with. And I don't have an issue with their intent at all whatsoever. It's just from the outside looking in and how the process is moving has me at a pause. And that's based on obvious actions.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Mayor, let's be fair here. We all sat here. Mr. Pate was here. We were here. We all knew when Mr. Pate evaluation was. Now, we sat here and we let that period pass, okay? We let that period pass. Mr. Pate didn't let it pass. We let it pass. And now, I don't think it's fair for us to come back at Mr. Pate, even though he said he agreed initially that he would extend his evaluation period. That shouldn't be asked of him. And in essence, only 2 people could really evaluate him. Only 3 people. Only 3 people were here. So if we're to move this city forward, I suggest we go ahead, we approve this new evaluation tool, and move on and look forward to next year. Because now, with this evaluation thing, it's taken away from the city. It's taken away time from Mr. Pate. And clearly it was not his fault. It was our fault. We missed the deadline. So what we should be looking at now is voting on this tool, getting this tool in place, and moving on and looking forward to next year's evaluation. Because right now we're stuck in limbo talking with attorneys and stuff. When clearly we sit here and let the time go by. So my opinion would be to go ahead. It's a nice evaluation tool. Go ahead, approve the tool, and look forward to the evaluation for next year. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I kind of share the same sentiments as Commissioner Burke. You know, we knew that April 30th ultimately was the deadline. I think we all were under the impression that, you know, looking at the tool and maybe coming up with a new tool to assess the manager will probably be the best route to go. Even though now I guess we're realizing that that tool would have never served the purpose of the evaluation period that was set to expire at the end of April. I mean, my concern is that, you know, that we have a valuable tool, something that can be used going forward. You know, Commissioner Burke is saying it, you know, we pretty much, you know, we kind of have to take this one, you know, but in the effort to move forward, voting on a new tool, I think will be in our best interest. So with that, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, I'll say this again. Madam Clerk, at this time, I would like to have the item pulled from the agenda. When the city manager and I met regarding this item, it was to ensure that we had an appropriate tool that was fair for an evaluation process. It seems that clearly there's more work to be done, and it's not the will of the commission to do what the manager and I did agree on. And thank you, Mr. Manager, for agreeing to do it. So the city manager and I will continue to meet on this, and if and when we are both confident that we have achieved our goal, I will reintroduce the item at that time. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn, but before we do that, Vice Mayor, if you can consider adding a category 5, that will include our priorities that we vote upon, that literally lays them out so that we can rate him on the accomplishment of those priorities. All right, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn this workshop?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Burke,
Second.
second by Commissioner Davis. The workshop is concluded. Give us about 5 minutes and we'll start the regular commission meeting in a few moments, all right? Thank you very much.